Hi, this is John Simonson, Wild Rivers Trout Unlimited chapter, and today we have Nate Thomas, the senior fishery biologist for the DNR for both Bayfield and Douglas County. And Nate's going to talk about our last 2 years. We did the White River Creel survey. So, with nothing more, I will turn over to Nate.
All right, thanks, John. Thanks everybody for tuning in and checking this out. So the White River, it's a unique system. It's only one of 8 rivers in the state that has over 40 miles of class 1 or 2 trout water. And as you can see here in this map, the main stem of the White River is shown by this dark blue line in Bayfield County. And in the upper part of that, up the upstream part of that, there's a lot of this green shaded area, and that's a lot of public land. This part here is the White River fishery area, and then the green shaded area between these two red dots right in here is the Bibb Swamp State Natural Area. And those are two properties owned by the DNR and provides great opportunity for the public to access the land and the river in this area. Also for the DNR to conduct habitat management and different timber harvest and things like that that can benefit the aquatic resource. So it's a great opportunity for management. And the White River itself provides a unique brown trout fishery, most notably in between these two red dots, right in the Bibb Swamp here. The brown trout get really big. It's a trophy brown trout fishery, and actually that area is the longest stretch of high quality trout water in the state that's inaccessible by public road. So it flows through public land, but it's remote, and to get in there, anglers oftentimes use canoe or kayak or raft, and they're going after these big browns shown here in this picture on the bottom. Fish get really big in there, so it's a really cool fishery. And the DNR has been conducting creel surveys on the White River since the 1980s, and I'm not aware of another trout fishery in the state that has this kind of historical data set of creel data. So it's pretty unique fishery with lots of historical data that we have on it. So last couple of years, like John said, we conducted another round of our creel surveys on the White River, and for the past 2 years, we used trail cameras and voluntary reporting survey kiosks to conduct this angler creel survey. So the trail cameras were placed at access locations, and most of the locations we used a time lapse program on the camera to take a picture every 15 minutes of a parking lot. And a example of that of an image is shown there in the top right, where that's our work truck there at one of the access locations. And then some of the other sites we had the camera set as motion detection, so it was recording vehicles that would be using an access road or anglers that were using an access trail to access the White River. And a picture there showing the bottom right of our work truck coming into an access site. And so the trail cameras were quantifying the number of anglers or vehicles that were using a site. And then from that, we were generating total angler effort for a given location. And then along with the cameras, we had voluntary survey kiosks, which are one of them is shown here on the left. And this kiosk had blank survey cards that anglers could fill out information such as how long they fished, what species they caught and harvested at that location for that trip that they did there at that site. And then we could combine the camera data and the survey card data to generate total catch and harvest at these various locations throughout the White River. So these plots here just show the locations where we had this survey equipment set up at. The top panel is from 2024 and the bottom panel is from 2025. The top panel, those red dots show the different locations that we had the equipment at, and this was from Pike River Road Bridge down to Bibbin Road Bridge. And this section we call that the middle white, and that's where previous creel surveys have been done. dating back to the 1980s. And then in 2025, we expanded the Creel survey further upstream on the main stem of the White River and also the South Fork of the White River. We added four additional locations there further upstream, and included that in our 2025 survey. And no previous Creel surveys have been done in that upper section of the White before. So getting into the results, this plot here shows total angler effort for each year in the middle White. And this again is from Pike River Road Bridge down to Bibbin Road Bridge. In 2024, we had about 4,500 angler hours, and in 2025, it was slightly higher than that, just over 5,000 angler hours. And this was an increase from what we saw in the 2010s, but still below historical um, effort that we saw in the 80s, 90s, and mid 2000s. This plot here shows the angler effort by site throughout the entire White River and the South Fork in the upper section. So on the bottom there is each site starting from the furthest downstream on the left, going all the way up to the furthest upstream on the right. The gray shaded area is that middle White section where we have previous Creel survey data from, and then the white area is the upper White where we just started Creel survey last year. The black bars are 2024, the white bars are 2025. In the middle White section, the most effort occurred at Sutherland Bridge, and in the upper White, the most effort occurred at that Fisheries Road bridge, that new bridge that was put in about 2 years ago next to the artesian well on the South Fork. There was actually considerable angler effort in the upper White section. Overall, it was less than the middle White. It was about 3,500 angler hours in 2025. But when you consider that there's only about 5 miles of of river up there, in terms of angler effort per river mile, it was about 670 hours, which is about 2.5 times higher than what we saw in the middle White in 2025. So this plot here shows what the anglers were catching and harvesting. Top panel is fish caught, bottom panel is fish harvested. The yellow circles are brown trout and the blue are brook trout. And this is again just the middle White section where we have previous Creel survey data. The last couple years, the number of brown trout caught ranged from about 6,000 to about 7,000 in the middle White. And this was a substantial increase from what we saw in the mid 2010s. And it was similar to what was documented in the 1990s in that section of the White River. Brown trout harvest was the lowest ever we observed the past couple of years. And as you can see, there's this declining trend in brown trout harvest in the middle White over time. For brook trout, the most ever brook trout were caught the past couple of years, highest we've ever seen in the middle White. And there was minimal harvest of brook trout in this section of the White River. So these plots here just show catch rates. So that's the number of fish caught per hour of fishing. The top panel is brown trout, bottom panel is brook trout. The colored bars are the the catch rates in 2025, and the white bars are from 2024. And again, these are for all of those sites, for starting from Bibbin Road Bridge furthest downstream all the way up to the Lake 2 walk-in access. Brown trout catch rates generally increased the further upstream you got, which is typical. There's a higher density of fish typically as you move higher up in the watershed. Fish are smaller, but there's more of them. The brook trout catch rates, there was no clear pattern there. It was interesting to see. It was somewhat patchy distribution of these brook trout catch rates throughout the main stem. Even all the way downstream by Bibbin Bridge, there was relatively high brook trout catch rates. Sutherland Bridge had pretty high brook trout catch rates, which was interesting to see there. And again, to be expected, there was the highest brook trout catch rates occurred up there in the South Fork. Overall, there was variable catch rates throughout the watershed, but um, the overall average catch rate throughout the entire White and the South Fork was similar to what other uh, the catch rates in other creel surveys that the DNR has done throughout the state. So that's all I got for results. I just want to thank all the anglers that participated in this survey. It was all we relied on voluntary information, but we got a tremendous amount of survey cards completed. So I want to thank the anglers for providing that information. It allowed us to complete this Creel survey and generate meaningful information from it. And also, I just want to thank the Wild Rivers Trout Unlimited chapter for their help over the years on managing the White River. They recently agreed to an adopt a fish or wildlife contract with the DNR. This is a program that involves stakeholders in management of state-owned lands. So the Wild Rivers Trout Unlimited adopted the White River Fishery Area, which is that public land furthest upstream in the watershed, mostly along the South Fork of the White River. And with their adoption, they've provided lots of donations for us to do our work. This Creel survey, actually, they funded all of the Creel survey equipment that we used. They've also provided funds for tree planting, for habitat management in the riparian area, and also provided funding for fish tagging and marking equipment that we started to use last year as part of a trout movement study throughout the White River watershed. And also they've provided lots of volunteers and helped with a lot of projects over the years, most notably in recent years with tree planting in the South Fork of the White River. So that's all I got. There's my contact information. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to hear from you.
Nate, thank you very much. I want to add that on May 8th, we are planning on another tree planting with Nate and the DNR on the upper South Fork off of we would meet at Rocky Run Road. I will be getting all that information on our website, wrtu.org. Or you can contact Nate there to let him know what we really need is a head count. Who wants to attend? They are a great time, a lot of fun, and you can really help the resource. But we need kind of a head count because we will be providing lunch. So we got to have an idea how many people are joining us. But thank you, Nate. That was awesome. Appreciate your time and effort putting this together and doing the Creel survey.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks again, John.